I just wanted to show up and sort of ask you. I see you're protesting my event out here. Is there anything that you want to say?
It's a silent protest.
Oh, it's a what?
Silent protest.
It's a silent protest. Okay. I brought you guys food for your food drive. Is that okay?
We don't want your food. It's from bad places.
Okay.
I'm breaking the silence just for a moment. I'm unshunning you for a moment just so we can explain why you're being shunned.
Okay.
Okay.
Please explain.
So you're being shunned because you're spreading hate and false information here on campus, and we don't stand for it here. So get out of here, you bigot.
Can you give me an example of any time that I've done that or PragerU has done that?
Just all of the stuff you guys do is just so full of misinformation, and it's so bigoted. And so I don't even need to provide an example because it's just so bad and everyone knows it.
Well, I need an example. I feel like we need to talk about our ideologies. Can you give me an example?
He's doing the silent protest too.
Oh, okay. Well, I would like it if you'd come in and listen to me speak. I think it'd be helpful.
We're not tolerant of views that are hateful, so I'm not going to listen to your hate-mongering ideas. Plus, they're false anyway.
Okay, well, great. I'm trying to have a conversation, but I guess if you don't want to have one.
This is an inclusive environment, and you're not welcome in it.
And scene. I have PTSD, I think, from that from that sketch we just did. Because for those of you who follow me on Instagram, you know that I went and did a speech at Winona State University about the state of our country today. We will show you a clip of that speech for your viewing pleasure. If you want to see more, I will see about getting the full speech posted on PragerU's YouTube and Facebook. But I went to do a speech at Winona State University, and what I anticipated was that there was going to be protesters. The Democrat Club at their school had put out little flyers saying protest hateful ideologies. PragerU, a far-right extremist organization, is going to be coming to our campus, and we need to protest them. PragerU was me. It was my event. I was just coming to speak about my journey to conservatism and how I believe America needs help and how we are headed down a dangerous path in this country. But they did not want to hear it. Now, leading up to this event, I came to Winona State University to check out the campus before the event even happened. I heard of all these different students who were so angered about me coming and speaking on their campus. But more so than that, something that really got to me was the professors who didn't want to hear me speak. There was a professor in particular who put out a faculty-wide email talking about how she did not want to see PragerU on this campus. She was trying to get my event canceled. She went to the president of the college as well and tried to get him to cancel the event to no avail. And in the email itself, I wish I had the screenshot of it, put that she protests PragerU. And in it, she wrote, quote, "I have no idea what Miss Epinobi is coming on this campus to say. No idea."
So, I mean, if you're a good teacher, what you should do is listen to those ideas that you bring on campus and then tell your students, here's an alternative perspective that you can think about, and you judge for yourself based on critical thinking, who's made a better case and who's made a stronger argument. That's what a good teacher would do. But no, this one is just saying, no, I don't even know what this person's going to say.
Right.
But don't let her on because she's hateful.
Yeah, I've heard about PragerU. I've heard they're hateful, so don't allow her on the program don't allow her on the campus to speak. Now, I did show up to this campus, of course. I did end up doing my speech, but before that, I got the chance to talk to the people who were protesting me. This was around 40 to 50 people outside of this campus, all, for the most part, young, white, 20-something 19 to 20-something-year-old girls with signs that had messages of how I'm bringing hate to the campus. Hate has no home here. Stop false information. We need to stop PragerU. Things like that. But I went and confronted them, and I want to sort of do a play-by-play on this video and tell you my perspective and give a little bit more context to what was going on, because this was sort of an in-the-moment video that was taken. So here we go. Hi guys, we're live at Winona State University. I have my canned foods for these protesters. We're gonna go out and bring it to them. We're gonna see how it goes. They're outside with signs. Apparently so far they have been pretty hostile towards the people trying to speak to them, but I'm gonna go and try and do it. I've got my canned foods here for the protesters. Let's see if I can get them to come. Oh, we're paused here. Well, let me go ahead and add some context to it anyways. So they framed this as though they were, of course, protesting the event. That's what all their sign says. Stop hate at this campus. PragerU has no place here, things like that. And in the meanwhile, they were also doing a food drive. So I saw this on their little flyer. I put out on my Instagram, okay, I'm going to show up. I'm going to bring food for these protesters for their food drive, and hopefully they'll have a conversation with me. So I got food, brought it to these protesters, and if this video will load, I will show you what else happens after that. And I don't think it's going to load.
Oh.
Either way, okay, let's just go through it.
This is the problem with doing a live show.
This is the problem.
When our internet, we need you to donate to PragerU, prageru.com/donate, so we can get internet that actually works while we're live in front of thousands of people.
Right. For our ragtag bunch, we do need internet in order to produce this show. But I'll just give you my synopsis of what happened. I showed up. I gave the food to these protesters. They did take the food, luckily, which was nice of them. I stood in front of them and I asked them, hey, can you explain to me what is hateful that I've said? Can you please give me an example of something that PragerU has done that does not go along with your ideology, does not go along with your view of the world, and I will listen. I want to hear what you have to say. Now, not a single one of them, for the first, 15 minutes of me even talking to them, was willing to come and put forth a point for as to why they were protesting my event. I heard, we're here for the food drive. This is a silent protest. At one point, and I want to try to load this video up. I'm going to go to our YouTube and find the actual video that we posted. They scream SpaghettiOs at me when I'm asked for them to give an argument.
It's sad too, because you were not at all trying to shame them. I was very appreciative of the tone that you took and the demeanor that you had and the way you were able to hold your composure when confronting these protesters, because it was something that anyone would be upset by is, hey, all these people are here to attack me. They're spreading lies about me. They're saying I'm a hateful bigot. They're saying I'm spreading misinformation. And yet I am, bravely walking out in front of them and just asking them, hey, give me one example of the terrible things that you're accusing me of. Give me one example, point to one thing that I've said that's bigoted or false or anything, and they could not provide one. And you're sitting there like, oh, well, I don't have. They're like, I don't have a phone on me to look to look up anything that you've said. And
Right.
you're like, somebody get her a phone. I'll sit here
Right.
and wait while you Google and look up the worst thing that I've said, and I will defend it.
And to that, they said, I'm not her, I'm they, them. And then I corrected myself and said, get them a phone. I've got the video here. It's pulled up. Let's play it now. Hopefully it goes smoothly. So,
No worries.
College Gems. Hi, guys.
Hi.
We met earlier. Brought some food for your
you very much.
food drive.
Thank you.
How many of you guys are out here? 30. Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm just live streaming. Just wanted to come and talk to you guys for my event and everything. What brings you guys out here?
Food drive.
If anybody wants to talk.
Food drive. Yep.
Okay, cool. What else?
Most of the food drive.
Okay. Is it okay if I film your signs? I'll try not to put your face in it. Is that all right? So I'm wondering if you guys would be willing to come inside and listen to the event. Why is that?
Your organization is known for spreading hateful information that is, is blatantly not true.
Okay, so can you give me an example of the hateful information that
Downplaying racism in the United States history.
downplaying it? How so? Okay, just so you can hear, because it's a little muffled there. Multiple people said, we're here for the food drive. We're mostly here for the food drive. That was the phrase that I heard the most, mostly here for the food drive, which insinuated to me that they had practiced what they were going to say when I came up to their table, because I did warn them on Instagram, I will be coming up to your protest in order to talk to you and have a civil discussion. Now, what this young man just said is that your organization, PragerU, spreads nothing but blatant lies that are completely false. And one of the lies that he pointed to is glossing over the existence of systemic racism. So let's continue. Yeah, you can bring up the video if you'd like. I would really appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know if you heard that either. He said, do you want me to bring up your effing video? So again, I come to them with a very mild, medium temperament. I just wanted to talk to you. And immediately, as I said in the show before, when leftists get confronted with their ideology, they either are extremely defensive or refuse to have the conversation whatsoever. So far, we've gotten refusing to have the conversation whatsoever, as well as extremely defensive. Let's continue.
I don't represent this group. I'm just invited here, so
Sure.
use my words to spread hate against these fine people.
Oh, I don't spread any hate, and that's why I want to invite you guys to come in and actually listen to the speech. I think it's important. So for those of you who don't know me, I used to work for the left myself. If you check my arm right here, you'll see a nice little civil rights fist on my arm, because that's what I used to work for and that's what I used to represent. Coming here to actually talk about that story and what I do now for PragerU, I would really appreciate it that if you're going to protest something or somebody when they're speaking on a campus, that you should probably listen to what they have to say. And the event is free. You can have seats in whatever row you like. You can come up and ask me questions as soon as the Q&A starts. Because I think if you're going to protest somebody, it's pretty important that you listen to what they have to say first and see if it's even worth the protest. Because I'm seeing signs that say hate. I'm seeing signs that say false information. I'm seeing that hate does not make America great. And I agree with all of those statements. I don't agree with hate. I don't agree with false information.
What do you think
I agree.
about the food drive?
I think the food drive is great. It brought you guys food. But I think it's interesting that we're saying we're here for a food drive and you're all holding signs that say hate doesn't belong at WSU. Hate does not make America great. No human is illegal. Welcome to a real university. So I'm curious as to what is the barrier between you and the door into the event. Does anybody have?
We're really here to show support for the food drive.
Yeah, but it
That's why
doesn't.
we're all here.
But your signs don't. You're here to support a food drive, but your signs don't say food drive.
Anyone from the
I did bring food, yes.
have attention to that?
Yeah, but your signs don't say food drive.
Thank you for your donation.
They say no more PragerU. Yeah, you're welcome for your donation. And I thank you for actually coming to my table and speaking to me. And this young man actually came to my table. We had civil discourse. We debated each other earlier today. I would ask that of all of you. I think that's super important. So what is the barrier? Does anybody else have a barrier that's stopping them from going into this event?
We just personally don't want to.
You plan on going in? That's great. That's great. I really appreciate that. I think more people should. Because I used to protest things all the time, and a lot of times it was things that I didn't understand that I was going to protest. And it's important that you go in and try to understand people before you make hateful signs for them. That's super important. Anybody else? Does anybody else have an actual qualm with anything that I've said or done that they're personally protesting here today? Or did you just hear the words PragerU and then you were told that we were a hateful organization and then you made a sign that says as much and showed up and did it? But I work, so and then here was the other statement. So obviously all of this was very coached. They met beforehand to make their signs. They met beforehand to discuss the talking points that they were going to put out when I came to speak to them. The talking points were, this is a silent protest. We don't feel like talking. We went over that point. This is for a food drive. We are mostly here for the food drive, even though our signs have nothing to do with a food drive. And then what was it that she just said right here?
That they're protesting PragerU, not you.
Right. We are protesting your organization. We are not protesting you. Amazing.
And you go on to say, like, I'm here as a representative of PragerU, so
Right.
find something that they've said that you're offended by, and I'll defend that.
Yes.
You're even willing to go a step further, which is just, we've talked about it already, but like, I can't commend you enough for the way that you approached this whole thing.
Thanks.
And we were so proud of you, like all of us, like eyes welling up with tears watching you do this, because it was so courageous, and you're such a great model for what education should be, what civil discourse should look like, and what it should really, you can tell by your whole tone and demeanor in this, you are sincerely reaching out to these people. You have no ill will against them.
Right.
You're not trying to get a gotcha moment for social media. You're really just, hey, you're seeing, like, you guys, you're not really like thinking through your positions here. You're not just with common sense. You don't even have an argument for what you're protesting against. So let's just can we just have a conversation? Can we talk? You're just extending the olive branch, really, and just saying, like, I'm trying to reach you because I used to do this too, and I know that I didn't even know what I was protesting back then. I didn't even really understand the ideas. I didn't have something specific. I was just told to organize and activate and all that stuff. And here you are, like, just trying to be like, pull them out of this and come back to the real world. And,
Right.
And anyway, so it was really awesome to see you approach
Hi
it in
guys,
this
we're
way.
live at
And I
Winona
really
State
think
University.
that even if it didn't show in the moment, that a lot of these students were impacted, just by seeing somebody who defied anything they've ever seen before. They're
Yep.
not seeing this from their professors. They're not being challenged to think critically. They're not being given this in social media or the mainstream media. So this is the first time they've actually been confronted with like, oh shoot, I don't even have ammo to defend my own ideas or to
Right.
defend my own activism, or the thing that I've staked my whole existence and meaning on is not, like, I have no substance to it. And hopefully that's like a wake-up call and the start of a process for them to start searching and investigating, because that's the same path that you went down. Is you saw, hey, some of the stuff I'm being preached to isn't really adding up when I just think about it for a second.
Yeah.
So that led you to investigate more, and hopefully this is the start of that process for them.
Yeah, that was, I tried to stay as civil as possible with the people that I was talking to. And you can go watch the rest of this video. It is about 15 minutes long. It is on PragerU's YouTube. It's posted before this. But yeah, I tried so hard to get a conversation out of, and there were some people who were willing to come and converse with me about what was going on. By the end of that video, they say, well, you're disingenuous anyways because you're live streaming this. You're live streaming this. If you wanted to have a conversation, you wouldn't be live streaming. And I said, you know what? I will turn off this camera right now. I will stop live streaming to my audience if it means that you're going to have a conversation with me. I turned it off, stood there, not a single thing. It took more of me just coaxing and talking and trying to get people to come politely to have them actually come up and have a conversation with me. And out of the 40 or 50 people who were there to protest me, only like 10 came in to actually listen to the event. Some of them asked questions, which I was very thankful for. And when they did, I had the whole audience applaud for them when a protester came and asked me a question. So it's so crazy that I have to incentivize civil discourse in that way, that you need applause for coming into somebody you disagree with and asking a question. So that was what happened at Winona State University. And I like to think that hopefully they had their minds changed, at least in a way that shows that conservatives are not the big bad wolves that they think that they are. And that's a big reason why I filmed it. A lot of people ask me, well, why'd you film this then? I filmed it because you need to see what is happening on these university campuses. This is a disgrace to academia. To have somebody with a differing opinion than you, and your first instinct is to make signs and then just sit outside and not have a discussion with them. That is not what academia is for. And the fact that there are professors at Winona State University who advocate for what these students are doing is a sign of where our university system is going.
Yeah, I mean, their signs are accusing you of being a hateful liar.
Right.
It's basically slander.
Yes.
And meanwhile, you're out there politely asking them to substantiate these claims and to just inviting them to a discussion about anything that they think, any questions that they want to raise up, any accusations specifically that they want to make. And there's absolutely nothing to it. So it just goes to show how, I don't know. It's a sad commentary on the state of affairs of our education system and their universities. But like you said, hopefully it is like a wake up call or the start of a process for them to start investigating their views. Because if I was caught with my pants down like that, like I can't come up with one thing to substantiate the claim I'm making about this person that I'm saying you stop hate. I'm holding a sign that says you're hateful, and I can't tell you why you're hateful. Hopefully that's a wake up call that like, hey, maybe I need to think about what I'm doing here for a second.
Right. And before we get on to other stories for today, I wanted to play part of the speech that I did at Winona State University, just so you guys can confirm what a hateful bigot I am. This is about midpoint in my speech where I start talking about a process that is taking place in America. Hopefully the video loads and you can actually listen to it, because if not, we are in trouble. We'll just move on to stories. This is where I talk about a warning that was given to Americans by a man by the name Yuri Bezmenov about ideological subversion. There are several steps to this ideological subversion that happen in America, and this video in particular is about the final step, and that final step is normalization. Let's see if it'll play for you guys. There is one final step. There is one final warning that Yuri Bezmenov put out to the American people, and that final step is normalization. So now everybody will look at you, the elites will look at you, the bureaucrats will look at you and go, well, I know this feels like chaos. I know it looks crazy that you can't say this certain word anymore. I know it sounds crazy that you don't know what a man or a woman is anymore. I know it sounds crazy that we've alienated and stratified everybody based on race, that we've created a racially Marxist country. I know it looks like chaos, but it's normal. I promise you it's normal. It's been normal all along. You just didn't know it. You were just unaware of your racism. You were just unaware of the way that the world was supposed to be. You need to re-educate yourself.
and then it will be normal for you too. And the last thing that you should do is look at all this that is happening right now and you go, yeah, this is normal. I accept it. This is the new world. This is the new America, because we're headed down a dangerous path that alienates all of us out of society. Those protesters out there, if somebody walked up and said, I'm going to wave my magic wand right now and she's not going to be able to speak, nobody in that room is going to be able to speak. In fact, their livelihoods are over. They're fired. They're not on social media. You will have no contact with those people anymore. They would go, yes, please. Yes, daddy government, do that for me. I would love that. That's what they would say. And that is not normal. And to be convinced that that is somehow normal is an atrocity. And what it takes, and the final part of my speech, is that we cannot let this happen. Every single person in this room, although they would love to convince you otherwise, has a voice, has influence, has power, has a family, has friends, has a community, and you should utilize that to talk about what's happening right now, because if we don't, it will never change. In fact, it gets far worse than this. There are people who wish far worse upon you, and I recognize this. I saw it when I was on the left. I see it when I'm on the right now. And truly, it's not even a battle of ideology anymore. It's a battle of truth. There are people who want nothing more than to lie and to morph reality into something that is not even real. And when you are armored with truth, that is all you need. There is one.
So there's the clip. It was so hateful, so bigoted. I can't believe some of the things that I said in that speech were allowed to be said on the campus of Winona State University.
I can't believe they let the second reincarnation of Hitler to give a speech on their campus like that. That was just brutal.
The black face of white supremacy she is. Just amazing. But no, it ended up being a really, really great event. We had 250 some people come out and watch and listen. And I was the first conservative speaker on their campus to be allowed to come and speak in 25 years, which is crazy. 25 years.
Are you kidding me?
25 years. Isn't that insane?
Crazy.
Isn't that insane?
That makes no sense to me. How do you even have a university where students are never exposed in 25 years to a speaker with ideas that are held by about half the country at least, that you never even have one person grace the stage to articulate any of those ideas? What does that say about you and your supposed mandate or reason for existence of to educate people? You're not educating them about anything. That's indoctrination.
It is.
When you only represent one side and try to teach that people that as orthodoxy and pretend like no other opposing perspectives exist.
Yeah, and it goes to show that the most important part of subverting a society is taking control over its education system. And that's effectively what's been done in America. And again, a very sad reality, something that we need to be fighting against and changing, because once you've educated an entire generation of Americans, it's very hard to reverse what you've done.
Yeah, I mean, the path toward normalization is really through education and through reinforcing it through the culture and through Hollywood and the media and stuff like that. But when you're able to educate an entire generation of young people to think a certain way, in a way that you've defined new values for them and new ideas. Like, America is great because we normalized the ideas of individual rights and liberty and the ideas that are articulated in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. We found a way to make those our norm. And now the universities have undone that and normalized the different ideas of leftism, of postmodernism, of Marxism, of neo-Marxism. And that is a critical race theory, of gender theory, of all this stuff. And that's what students are being indoctrinated in. And they're normalizing that and undoing the normal that it made. And through history, what America stood for is not normal. Tyranny is the norm.
Yep.
The silencing and killing of dissidents is the norm. America was the exception, and it took a miracle for America to come into being and to normalize rights. And now we take those for granted, and we take liberty for granted, and we take freedom for granted, and we're normalizing a new normal that assumes those, that doesn't even know why those things are needed.
Yeah, it's just like if you want progressivism, the founding fathers were so progressive.
Yeah.
They looked around at the world around them, and all the countries that had ever been created prior to the United States were not created on ideas. They were created on race. They were created on religion. They were created on dogma. And the founding fathers saw that and said, no. That makes you so utterly susceptible to tyranny and judgment and atrocities. Let's build a nation that is different. Let's build a nation that doesn't care about your race, religion, creed, whatever. it's based on ideas, a set of ideas that all humans should strive towards. That is progressive. That's the most progressive thing to ever happen at the time.
Yeah,
but it's not enough.
Yeah, you've progressed your way out of progress.
Yep.
You had progress. You had the crown achievement of human civilization, and you're progressed past it. And then when you do that, well, guess where you end up? Regressing. You're going backwards into segregation, into oppression, into mandating people think a certain way, and into silencing dissidents and creating a second-class citizens, which we'll get to here in a second with New Zealand. But
yes, we will.
yeah, it's regressive, and the universities have a huge part and are hugely responsible for the turn that our society's taken, sadly.
Right, it is regressive. I don't like playing the race card. In fact, I run away from it as often as I possibly can. But it's a very interesting thing to see the protests that were happening at this Minnesota university. In front of me, I'm just standing there, and all these young, white, mostly female protesters were sitting and talking about how I push a narrative that goes against systemic racism against myself. It's just amazing. It's just amazing to see how ideological dogma is just so embedded in people's minds that they can't even justify it. They simply just spout the same thing over and over and over. And when it's questioned in a way that is inescapable, as in me, a black person standing right in front of you saying, please give me evidence of this happening. And at one point in the video, if you go and watch it, one guy does say, well, redlining is systemic racism. I debunked his redlining argument right there in front of him. And still, the dogma persists of systemic racism in regard to my own life in America.
The fact that this crowd of young white people can stand in front of a young black female and be so offended that you don't acknowledge your oppression is mind-boggling. You're like, no, guys, I mean, I don't accept this narrative, and I want to be, treat me like a human being that you respect, and stop telling me that I'm oppressed, and engage my ideas, and, form any persuasive argument to try to change my mind or challenge anything that I'm saying. And you're not even listening to what I'm saying. You're just telling me how to think, which is pretty condescending and pretty racist to tell a black person, hey, here's what you're allowed to think as a black person, and you're not allowed to think for yourself. According
to your own ideology. And then when you give them facts, this is hilarious. When he asked me for the facts around redlining, I gave him the facts around redlining. Well, source, where's your source on that? And luckily, although this is not the case for most people, when people ask you for a source, tell them to look it up. They have computers in their pockets. They can literally Google what you just said and find if it's true or not. But in this case, I actually had the source. Said, there's a book written by Tom Sowell called Visions of the Anointed. You can go and look it up right now. Oh, well, just because you cited some obscure book by a world-acclaimed economist doesn't mean that you have any facts, doesn't mean that you've actually debunked my argument. The cognitive dissonance is deep and it is real. And you have to keep having the conversations probably hundreds and thousands of times before it breaks through the wall.
Yeah, I mean, what you said in your speech, though, I think really hit the nail on the head, is that it's not necessarily a battle of one set of ideas against another anymore. It's a battle about truth itself.
Yes.
And if people can't be bothered with facts, if facts exist that contradict your beliefs and you are indifferent to that, then we are in a very dangerous place. If you care less about the truth than
than being right and
being right, then what? You're completely possessed by an ideology at that point, and you're serving. It's like you're in basically a cult, and we need to break that bubble before. It's like we talk about how you're playing by two different sets of rules in the game of life, and you're playing in the whole set of rules for you is, does it serve the ideology that I've already predetermined cannot be falsified? And that is a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, and let's see how dangerous it is when we subscribe ourselves to this sort of thinking. Here's the Prime Minister of New Zealand in a very short clip on the news.
So you basically said this is going to be like, well, it's almost like, you probably don't see it like this, the two different classes of people. If you're vaccinated or if you're unvaccinated, you have all these rights. If you are vaccinated...
That is what it is. So, yep.
So you...
Just like that, Amala. There go your rights. Poof.
Just like that. Not even, you know what? Maybe I'm commending for truth, but not even an ounce of trying to work your way around to create a loophole of why that's not the case. Just, yep, that is absolutely the case. You are now a second-class citizen if you are unvaccinated in New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, it just goes to show these people do not understand freedom. They do not understand the value of natural rights. That my freedom is not your bargaining chip to hold over my head in the first place. It's given to me by God. It's bestowed on me by your Creator with inalienable rights. That's what's in the Declaration of Independence. And it's not yours to hang over me until I comply with whatever mandate that you put out there. And the fact that they so flippantly just say, "Yep, you don't get your freedom. You don't. Oh, no. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. You thought you had freedom? No. You just have to do what we say. And if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. I don't have to justify the position to you. I don't have to provide a compelling case that actually make people vote on, even to say, well, you can get your freedom back after X. We're taking it away on a limited basis, and you can get it back after X amount of time that we specify. And here's the path, toward why we're doing this extreme measure in any temporary sense. I mean, I could have maybe entertained that toward the beginning of the pandemic when we didn't really understand the virus, we didn't have a grasp on things, but we have a better grasp on everything now. Cases are lower than they've ever been in states like Florida now, and here they are locking down even harder, treating rights with less respect than they ever have, and it's not a good sign for things to come.
No, it's not at all. And look at how quickly the soldiers fall in line on this. The government puts out an order and immediately people just toe the line of that order. And again, it's how it happens. It's because people love power. I don't care what anybody says. You may think that you're self-righteous, that if you were born in a time of tyranny and transgressions and human rights atrocities, that you would be the one to speak out. You would be the one above it. You most likely wouldn't. And it's not because we don't necessarily have the moral compass to do so. It's because humans love power. We love it. Look at all the police officers in Australia who are perfectly fine going out and putting together these orders that make no sense whatsoever, macing people, choking people, stomping on people, confining people to their households, all because they've been given a power that they did not have before. Did I tell the story of the bouncer on this show before?
Maybe. I don't know. Go ahead and tell
I
it
don't
again.
know if I did, but I have a bar that I go to very, very often here in Los Angeles. And there's a bouncer who works at this bar. And we've been friends ever since I've started going to this bar. Always been perfectly nice to me. Never been a problem. Lets me in, whatever. I come to the bar the other day and he goes, "Oh, do you have your Vax card or a negative COVID test?" I said, "No, I don't have either of those things." He's like, "Oh, okay. I might be able to let it slide this one time, but you're going to need it from now on." And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. And also, I will not be coming to this bar again if this is going to be the rule that you enforce." And coincidentally enough, there were these guys behind me who watch our PragerU videos and follow me on Instagram, and they're like, "Let her into the bar. Like, she's totally cool. Like, let her in. He ends up letting me into the bar.
Free my girl Amala.
Free my girl. She didn't do anything. Free her. She didn't do anything. And he ends up letting me into the bar. This guy follows me on Instagram. I get a DM from him later on, and he goes, "You know what? I'm willing to let the Vax card thing slide on one condition." And I said, "Okay, what's that one condition?" He's like, "You have to hang out and sit down and talk politics with me." And oh my, I don't know what in this man's mind convinced him that this was a good pickup. This was a good way to get a date with somebody. Holding up some perceived power that you have over me by being a bouncer at a bar and being able to let me in so that I would go and grab a bite with you. And that he
tried to Harvey Weinstein you.
You'll get this part, girl. You'll get this part, baby girl, if you just go to dinner with me. Yeah, you see? And although this is anecdotal, it points to a larger truth that humans, when they get power, will use that power at any turn that they can to be advantageous for their own lives. And that's exactly what this guy did. Amazing.
Yeah. I wonder, like, this is just happening on the governmental level here in New Zealand, but it is a common pattern that we're seeing. Anytime you see these mandates instituted, it's like they never say, "Hey, this has an expiration date at such and such a time." And like in California, they have not specified when we get our freedom back, at what level of spread or anything. And so it's literally just a power grab. And it's incumbent on people who are seeing, we talk about, like, sometimes it feels like here we're in East Berlin in post-war Germany, and we're seeing the walls be built up around us, and we'll be like, oh, I'm just going to hang out with my family a little longer. It'll be fine. But it's incumbent on the people who are watching their freedoms being stripped away to stand up and make noise about it. And I think, there are plenty of Australians and New Zealanders and Californians who are watching these tyrannical mandates come down and just sort of, it'll be, and I'm not even making this a conservative liberal argument or anything here. It's just, we take our freedom for granted, and then we see it being taken away, and the alarm bells don't go off that like, oh my God, who does this person think they are? Right. No, this is totally wrong. I'm going to stand up and make noise about this. And people are just like, well, I sure hope the government, figures it out and gives it back. And there's this, the government does not deserve your trust. You're a fool if you trust government to make all the right decisions and the best decisions for you, especially when we know that there is a disconnect between your thoughts, your ideas, and what's actually being who's actually in power and what's being decided and handed down. If you don't feel like your government's representing you and there's that disconnect there, then why would you trust them to lay anything that they lay down or any policies that they institute? It's crazy.
And that's what they do, is they take all the power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. They take the majority of it, and then they go, okay, well, let me give police officers a little bit of power here just so they get a little power hungry in what they're doing. Let me give this bouncer at the bar, or the guy who's letting people into In-N-Out, or the guy who's letting people into grocery stores a little bit of power here, a little bit of self-righteousness, because he gets to turn people away and call them bad people for not being vaccinated and not having a negative COVID-19 test. And that is wrong. It is wrong to hold up what would be a normal part of living, like going to a bar, leaving your house, going to a grocery store, and saying, well, on this condition, you get to live a normal life. On this condition, you get to be a normal citizen. The amount of people in the comments justifying this it's very interesting.
Oh, really? I'm not seeing it.
No, it's okay.
But like you were saying, with even this, in the same way that you should never expect someone who takes power to give it back willingly. Once you give up any ground that you give up, you should never expect to take it back easily. And we're seeing with whatever you're willing to not object to in small increments, it's going to just continue. And they're smart about this. I forget, there was something got exposed recently. They did that supercut of it was a Fauci thing. I don't know if we can talk about it in depth, but it was basically here's how effective the vaxes, and then over time the percentages kept going down. It's it's 95%, and then it's all the way down to 60 some odd percent now or something. And you just see they have no honesty about how they represent these things.
Yep. And there is no honesty. And what they do is just brush over the problems that have come out of the policies that they advocated for. They're going to brush over the amount of businesses that fail because unvaccinated people cannot go and patronize these businesses. They're going to brush over the amount of homelessness and crime that's happening in our areas. They're going to brush over everything that has come out of the defund the police movement. They will brush over our defense systems being destabilized, because now we are pushing liberty-loving soldiers and military servicemen out of the military for not being vaccinated because of these mandates. And here's what happens. So when we push kids out of school who go against the vaccine mandates, when we push men and women out of the military who go against these vaccine mandates, when we push professors out of universities that go against the vaccine mandates, when we push workers out of grocery stores and gas stations and what have you, restaurants when they go against the vaccine mandates, what do you have left? What you have left is the people who chose to be cowards and the people who chose to advocate for other people's freedoms being stripped away. That's who you have representing America now. That's who you have in jobs. That's who you have in our military. That's who you have teaching your children, is the people who are too cowardice to speak up against what's happening right now. They are successfully weeding out people who are lovers of liberty and freedom from our society. Now, there is a state that is fighting this and not allowing it to happen, and that is the state of Florida. They are advocating and trying to fix the problems that are happening right now. This is out of the New York Post. So the governor, DeSantis, wants to pay unvaccinated cops $5,000 to relocate to Florida. Essentially what he said is he's put out a nationwide call and said that police officers who refuse to go along with the coronavirus mandates will now be paid $5,000 in a sign-on bonus to relocate to Florida. He states, "We will treat you better."
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is amazing. It's like when you're in an abusive relationship and you finally meet a guy who's actually going to treat you right. And that's what the state of Florida is doing right now.
Like you said, though, like when you institute these mandates, the first people to leave are the principled people, and the ones to stay are the compliant people who are willing to enforce anything that, whether they agree with it or not. And Florida is saying, well, we'll take the principled people.
Yes.
Bring them to us. Bring the people who actually have morals and standards and who are willing to stand up for what they believe in. Those are the type of people we want in authority in our state. And we don't want the people who are compliant and thoughtless and just will, confront people on the beach like they do in Australia for having sunbathing and that not being a justifiable reason to be outside.
Right. And he goes on to say, if you're not being treated well, we will treat you better here. You fill important needs for us, and we will compensate you as a result. That's exactly how we should be doing things nationwide. And to, again, lose the people who value freedom and liberty, which is exactly what you want when you're hiring police officers. That's really important, that you don't want the cowards who are going to push these tyrannical mandates on people. So now they're going to all be in Florida. And we did a video on mass psychosis. The solution to mass psychosis is building parallel societies, and those parallel societies tend to function better when juxtaposed with the tyrannical and dictatorial societies that are functioning beside them. And that's what Florida's going to be. It's going to be the state that just functions better than every other state in the union because they are standing by the tenets that America was founded on.
Yeah, and it's pretty self-evident that where are the states and cities that everyone's fleeing from, and where are the states that are exploding in population growth and that everyone wants to be in. And it speaks for itself where what style of governance and what sort of philosophy rules the day in those states. It speaks for itself which one works and which one's better and which one's more amenable to people having happy, free lives, and for businesses to flourish and for people to enjoy their freedom and be happy. And I hope these cops enjoy the bonus and the freedom that they're going to get by moving to a red state.
And here's more out of Florida. As we're currently undergoing the supply chain crisis, Florida has offered to solve the problems. Many of the supply chain errors are being perpetrated here in California due to different environmental regulations. We have and a multitude of other problems within the supply chain. We have hundreds of thousands. Is it hundreds? It's probably tens of thousands of ships at this point.
I don't know.
I don't want to misspeak. It's a lot of ships.
It's threatening Christmas, okay?
It is threatening
California's
Christmas.
stupid regulations are threatening your Christmas, and that we will not have toys, furniture, all manner of goods.
Food
there's
supplies,
all sorts
everything.
of shortages across the board, on top of employment problems nationwide. And it's just all of this is a manufactured crisis because of poor policies.
Yep.
So I'm sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, these shipping containers are waiting in the ocean, just floating about in the ocean on the coast of California.
They're literally having to take boats to the boats that are full of food to feed the crews because they're just stranded out there in the bay waiting for an opportunity to unload their goods.
But Florida has offered a solution. Let's see if they're taken up on this offer. Here's the clip off of Tucker Carlson tonight.
It's a real crisis. I think
What is going on?
Was there like an ad on this?
I think there's an ad on this.
Oh, no.
We keep having
audio issues.
We will.
I thought I installed ad blocker on your computer, so this didn't happen.
No, because this is a new computer, Taylor.
Amala has fried 2 computers for this podcast. 2 casualties of just trying to deliver you guys her spicy takes week in and week out. And I guess they're so spicy that they fry her computers.
I'm just going to, let's call it YouTube censorship. Can I get away with that?
Yeah.
Here's the video out of Tucker Carlson tonight.
crisis is a real crisis. I think a year ago it cost $3,000 to move a container from Asia to the East Coast of the United States. It's now $20,000. So this is affecting every part of the U.S. economy. You say you have a solution or a part solution to this. What is it?
So we have capacity at all of our ports. Remember, Tucker, they made a big deal about LA going to start doing 24/7. We always do 24/7 in Florida. We've got capacity, and all of our ports can offer these businesses good incentives if they reroute their ships. We've already had some ships rerouted. We expect to have more. But if you're going to sit off the coast for days on end, you might as well just bring it to Florida. We've got great logistics on the ground that can get it to market, and we're happy to be able to step up because there are empty shelves. This is driving inflation. This is going to cause shortages. We already see shortages. It's going to affect the Christmas season. So I think Florida can be part of the solution here.
The more Florida acts like a country right now, I think the better for all of us. My personal view. Governor,
the more Florida acts like a country right now, I think the better for all of us.
I thought he said the more. I thought he got it backwards and meant to say the more the country acts like Florida, the better off we'll be.
No, he's saying the more that Florida is literally acting like the beacon of the United States.
I think both are true. I mean, I wish the United States acted more like Florida.
I wonder if they'll pull an MLB and say because we don't support Florida's policies or the handling of the COVID-19 crisis, we're not going to allow them to fix our supply chain. That would be a very interesting response to this.
How terrible are they willing to let things get before they just fess up and like loosen the regulations, stop giving people unemployment checks so they actually have staffing for things, and start to actually solve some of the problems? Like, I feel like the tendency is to double down on the stuff that made things bad in the first place, or to add layer upon layer of like, oh, unemployment crisis, well, let's add some more environmental regulations on top of that, to just continue to make things worse. And the net result is inflation, which, as Will loves to point out, is basically just an invisible tax on you to go to the wealthy. And they just continue to double down on this stuff that continues making things worse, rather than just acknowledge the simple facts like, okay, maybe we need to lighten up. Maybe we need to treat this as an emergency crisis and get these things unloaded however way we have to. That would what competent, responsible leadership would be doing. And thanks to Florida for at least pointing out that fact, and by saying, hey, if you just come to our functional state, we can actually get this done. Yeah.
Instead, they want to gaslight us. We talked about that article out of Washington Post that was an opinion piece saying that we shouldn't be up in arms about empty shelves in our grocery stores. We should simply lower our expectations for the American economy and the American supply chain, that we're so used to the comfort of being Americans and the cushiness of our country that when one thing happens, when one time our supply chain tanks and is unable to function at the rate that it was functioning before, we need to lower our expectations of what it means to be an American citizen.
Yeah, why should you expect Dunkin' Donuts to have donuts? Just lower your expectations.
Yeah, of course.
Scott just showed me a picture he was at this weekend. Went to a place called the Habit Burger in LA. And what did the picture say? It's got like due to shortages. Yeah, here, I'll read it. We are sorry for the inconvenience. Due to nationwide supply issues, we are currently experiencing outages of some of our food and beverage items. Thank you for your understanding.
Yep.
So
same thing happened to Chipotle. A lot of Chipotles around here in Los Angeles have been out of lettuce due to supply chain shortages. The boba spot near my apartment is out of boba because they can't get it shipped over to their actual franchises. So
it doesn't, like, I can't be clear enough. This doesn't just happen. Bad policies lead to this happening. Bad people in charge who have no idea what they're doing, or who are more concerned with virtue signaling and taking lots of time off, are making this happen. And it's not, these crises don't just, there are enough real crises that happen in the world that are not manufactured for us to deal with, like the rise of China, or other people who hate our values, or human rights abuses in North Korea. There are plenty of like real crises that can be confronted. This is manufactured.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, kudos to Florida again for trying to solve the nation's problems one step at a time. We're actually seeing a state that's getting something done. Now we're going to move on. Typically we do Dear Will and Amala on the show on Monday, but we didn't get many advice questions from you guys. What I wanted to read out, we'll call this Monday Mail instead, because I think that's the segment we're going to make Monday instead anyways. But Monday Mail, I got a very nice Twitter DM. It's quite lengthy, but I want to go through and read this to you guys. It's from a man. His name is John. That's all I'm going to put out there. I'm not going to say his Twitter handle or anything like that. But I wanted to share this because it just gives me hope, keeps me moving, stops me from being demoralized. Well, he talks about how he was struggling to sleep, so he decided to type me this message, didn't realize whether or not I was going to read it, and I did get to read it, so hi, John. He said he saw the videos of protesters outside my speech yesterday, which got him thinking about his own journey from being a leftist to becoming a conservative. I want to just skip through a little bit here. I grew up in a small town in Michigan. I had the luxury of not thinking about politics growing up. They were surface-level ideas I had based on experiences. For example, my older brother joined the Marines. Oops. Oh my goodness.
Were you reading the wrong one?
No, I wasn't reading the wrong one.
Oh
my gosh, the amount of technical difficulties we're having today. Okay. My brother joined the Marines and served multiple tours in Afghanistan. I wanted him to be safe, so I was broadly anti-war. Growing up in a town of only a couple thousand people and only like 10 black people total, I saw some very backwards and racist ideas shared. This was rare, but it always stood out, so I thought racism is wrong and I opposed it. I went to church when I was young, but I saw the hypocrisy in people who were religious but sinned anyway. Parental infidelity in my family, which led to divorce, so I became an atheist at a young age in a form of rebellion. And this is so often what happens with people. And why the left is so powerful in what they do is because in general, these are not things that are super systemic within society. It's not something where you're going to walk out of your door every day and see extremely racist people, although racism does exist. But they run on the instances where it does happen, and then they perpetrate this narrative that it happens all the time, that it's a systemic problem, that it's because of the founding of this country. So they take really bad incidences that should never happen when it comes to racism in this country, and they conflate them with the founding of this country. And that's an evil thing that tricks people. Now, he goes on to say, then I went on to university and unknowingly was indoctrinated into leftist groupthink with some of those seeded ideas that had been planted early, making me an easy convert. The groupthink element is crucial, as being surrounded by that type of thinking made me super confident that my newfound religion, again, yes, leftism is a newfound religion, must be correct. Unbeknownst to me at the time, having a spiritual hole in my life leaves you susceptible to self-righteous fervor. Yeah. I know now that I must have upset some of my family with how obnoxious and loud I was with some opinions. Thankfully, they're good people and didn't give up on me. I can't say the same for some of my friends on the left who disassociated with me immediately after I began sharing heretical views. This is exactly what happened to me. Exactly what happened to me. If I had met myself who I was 4 years ago, I would have hated myself. I would have been like, I do not want to ever hang out with this girl.
Would you have been protesting yourself?
I might have been protesting myself. I think I would have shown up for the protest against myself if I was who I was 4 years ago. And it was just so self-righteous. There was nothing you could tell me. I was absolutely right. And I was like that around my family members who disagreed with me, and they were so loving and accepting of me, which was really a big part of what led me to waking up, is realizing that people in my family who were conservative and white were just great people, and that I couldn't hold these views together. Now, he goes on to say, as you know, part of the dogma of the leftist cult is that you must speak your thoughts or share your truth. Silence is violence in order to gain social acceptance. The social credit score aspect is largely unspoken in the culture on the left, or denied that it exists at all, but it's a real thing and it's powerful. That is why I'm so thankful for you being who you are and doing what you do. The only way to break through that groupthink barriers to have likable people show others that we're not the evil boogeyman that the priests of their ideology want to say that we are. And that's how he sort of ends. He goes through a little bit more of his story that I won't share with you guys, but he talks about how just compassionate conservatives, what I always try to say on this show, were fundamental in him accepting who he was and finding ground in his beliefs. Thank you, John.
Yeah, this is so cool. I love hearing this. And I'm glad that you took the time to read such a long DM. But if you're sending us stories of your transformation, please do. I mean, we want to hear them. And this is an awesome account of, and really like it parallels Amala's own story in so many ways. And it seems like, I don't know. Yeah. Like you said, when you encounter compassionate people who aren't there, aren't who break the mold of that boogeyman that the left tries to paint of like, oh, conservatives are these hateful bigots. Mm-hmm. But when you run into one who's just willing to approach you in good faith and talk and cares about you as a human being and is not treating you like someone they're just trying to dunk on, who knows what can happen. So this is a really encouraging story, and it just goes to show that people doing what things like what you did at this campus can really change minds and open the door to some transformations.
Yeah, and a lot of you are asking in the comments what happened to him that he woke up. He stipulates in the DM that he moved to Seattle as a young leftist and was seeing, again, how progressive policies ruin cities. And he's being told by mainstream media and the newspaper there and all of the social media and the mainstream media that, oh, these policies are great. Our city is better than ever. It's cleaner. Crime is down. And meanwhile, he's walking out of his door and seeing homeless people on the street, people doing heroin and screaming at little children trying to go to school, children being indoctrinated, and seeing how the policies that you advocate for don't work. It's exactly what happened to me. I was advocating for policies, teaching people about it, and the policies did not work. And it really In order to wake somebody up, it has to be a personal experience. It really does, which is why going out and having those conversations with people is so important. That's a personal experience. They've met somebody who's broken through the caricature that they've painted of conservatives and woken them up in a way. And that is so, so powerful. So thank you, John, for sending me this DM. You've really reinvigorated my fight, my fervor when it comes to what I do every day. And I love getting DMs from you guys, so feel free to message me.
It's been quite the week for you, huh?
It's been quite the week, man. I'm like winding down, and then I have to go and be in Florida very, very soon to do it all over again. So
round and round we go.
No, it's good.
People are asking where Will is.
Ah, okay.
We didn't say.
Right now, Will is in Florida, and I will be there shortly
Is he Florida?
as
I thought
well.
he was in Texas.
He wasn't. Well, okay, wait, he's in Texas, traveling to Florida later today.
Okay. He was filming some Man on the Street videos, which will be coming out soon in Texas. What university? I don't remember, like Texas State or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
but he's in Texas right now filming Man on the Street. He's going to leave Texas and go to Florida. I'm then going to meet him in Florida. We're going to do some events out there. And then we're going to be back next week. Will, Amala, and Taylor will all be on the show consecutively.
How come I don't ever leave? I need to go on a trip somewhere.
You left for your wedding. We
That's
got
true.
you there. We
Yeah,
got you there.
I was
So
gone for
Taylor's
a while.
had his hiatus. Scott's had his hiatus. Will's had his hiatus. I've had mine. And next
This has
week,
become like Will or Amala Live.
Will or Amala Live. You get to flip the coin, and hopefully you get one of us. But next week, it's going to be Will and Amala Live, which I'm very, very excited for. But anyways, guys, that's our show for
That's
today.
our show.
I hope you guys enjoyed watching, despite the technical difficulties. Hopefully, in the shows throughout this week, there will be none. One can only hope. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single day when we go live, 2:30 PST, 5:30 Eastern. You can listen to us on Google Play, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review to let everybody know that you love the show. Let us know that you love the show. We also have a survey that we're going to put down in the description. If you don't fill out the survey, I lose my job. Immediately. Not seriously, but just fill out the survey. Let me know how you feel about Will and Amala Live. What can we improve on? What segments do you like? What segments would you like to see? What other PragerU content do you like to watch? And you can leave a little note at the end of the survey as well. If the note is funny or particularly sweet, we may read it on the show and give you a shout out. So please go out and fill that survey. You guys have been doing it by the hundreds already, but we do need as many as possible. We want thousands, not just hundreds. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow with some spicy stories. Bye, guys.
Peace.